every year I say I don't want to talk, and every year this is like proving my point that I just don't want to talk. Anyhow, this is a lovely Henriette. She's amazing. Met her last year. She is super, super, super talented, owns her own company, Elephant in the Room, but she also works in the automotive industry as a consultant. I'm Shelby Wilson. I'm not as amazing. I'm not as talented. I don't work for Elephant in the Room.
Okay, this
part
I should maybe talk about you. Yes. So Shelby is working also in the automotive, somewhere in the UK, somewhere with big cars, so somewhere quite known. Long story of that one company, and so talented, being in a place in that company where we actually can do something, like you in your place and me something, and also we collect, of course, experiences, seeing something, and we thought it's a good idea to come together, find out what's actually happening at the moment for the agile world. Yeah. So, shall I start then?
Yes, you should.
Okay. So our talk is about VUCA Extreme. And this is what we realize working in our industries. And because of the industry, what the transition it's going through is that we are having then also, of course, in adopting to it with agile coaching, of course. We do it with agile methods and mindsets. And what we are seeing is that this is not just one transition, like usually we talk about revolutions, industrial revolutions, but we're having here a layer of several changes at the same time. So this is leading to this VUCA extreme world. That means we have digitalization at the one hand, then we have electrification. That is a big, big shift for automotive. We have automation itself for the cars. We have revenue model shifts due to all those different ones. So we have interaction between the different transitions we are seeing. And we have then, of course, the mobility and transport transition itself. And then what most of it as well, what is happening is a rapid change in market and players. And because of this last point, we want to introduce you the new concept of our well-known VUCA world into the VUCA world. This is not because we are an automotive. This is because we need the R, because this is really the strongest problem or the strongest challenge, I'd say, we are facing at the moment in this industry, but not only in this industry. And I quote here Ralf Brandstätter, he's a member of board of Volkswagen. He says, only 2 years and everything had changed, like waking up and then everything was changed, especially looking into the direction of China, of course, for this industry. And then this is not automotive related, but I found this from German Railways. Also a board member saying, like, for this change, we do need a pace that we had never been before. So rapidity really is the part which is having a strong impact here on what we are seeing and what we have to deal with and try to cope with, of course. Therefore, oops, wrong song. This one. This is an industry at its brink at the moment. What you see here is where the fast fish is eating the slow fish, no matter how big the slow fish is. So this is the change. Before we had big companies like automotive companies, too big to fail is what we say. No, that's not anymore true. We can be failing as a big one because we are the slow one. And therefore,
so we come into volatility. So we've noticed in our market there is a lot of volatility that that just exists. It's technology advancements. It's everything that we put into our system that causes volatility. So their impacts, everything that we've done with the technology side. Our market demand in the automotive industry is causing us a lot of volatility because it's a global demand across the world with lots of different cars. So that we've automatically hit volatility straight away. And then we've done many strategies, and when I come to talk about a couple of slides later, the strategies and the agile strategies that go into the automotive company are huge. I did a talk last year about consultants. We literally have had like 16 different companies walk through, and that actually then brings a lot of volatility to the market. But you'll see it in your everyday job anyhow, not just in the automotive sector. We then step into that uncertainty. Again, the managing of all of those risks, what that means. We have the many market changes, the market strategies that come in place, especially in my industry and Henriette's. We have many different strategies that come in from marketing. We also have loads, believe it or not, the automotive world is actually has a lot of regulatory and legalities to it, because fundamentally if the car doesn't work and it gets in an accident, that causes us lots and lots of problems. We have shifting customer bases. So, for example, when I come to talk about my industry and shortly, the market segmentation has changed. So our customer segmentation ultimately changes. Again, that brings a lot of volatility into our systems. And then last but not least, tools and approaches. So we ram tools, loads of tools into our systems on every single day. And the approaches, again, how to use them, how do we navigate them? AI is now coming into place, digital twinning, and on and on and on. And when we go into what we call complexity, and again, from my market, and certainly Henriette's, we've noticed that the global supply chain has caused us some complexity. Lack of chips, believe it or not, our cars need microchips. If they have a lovely monitor at the front that when you're driving you can see the speedometer and different things. Supply chain's gone down, changed, different markets, we're not getting them on time. That causes us lots of complexity. Increased product complexity as well. Beautiful segue into Pavel's talk this morning. He talked about we don't get our product right, and certainly in the industry I've worked in, we have a number of vehicles. I'm giving away slightly who my customer might be. We have a number of vehicles in the SUV range, and they're classed as the modern luxury vehicle. But we've oversaturated it, right? And it's going to that market segmentation, and that causes us a lot of complexity. We have lots of people running around trying to think of what our customer actually needs when it's just a car to drive on the road. The diversification of those markets. So we have a number of big players that come in, causes us lots of problems. Up and coming tech companies now starting to bring in their own automotive cars. You've got self-learning, self-driving cars. They're all causing us lots of problems. So those heritage brands that we have in the UK have a lot of competition in that space. And that's given us a lot of complexity as we navigate through what that looks like. And last but not least is our ambiguity. So my system, we overload ourselves with all of this information. Too much, to Pavel's point. Information, do we actually need all of that information? Are we going for the right product? It's just too much overload. And that can cause, from the bottom down to up to my board, just causes a lot of complexity in my realm. And then the data that we leverage. So when we do marketing, we actually strip down cars from competitors and we pull all their data out. And actually, we don't fundamentally need that data in our systems, because I just think it give that over ambiguity of something that's not actually generally our product in our space in the automotive industry. So that's causing us a lot of ambiguity.
And of course, finally, rapidity. That is what we were adding now to our VUCA world, adapting to the rapid changes in technology, regularities, and partners and market. That means what we see, it is a very unstable way that we have to tackle in this industry. All the regularities that have to come to changes because of the new technology. Of course, all the before VUCA letters go into the same again as well, because of all the parts before. You have to adapt constantly to it, and it means also you're adapting to technology and also the regularities, but also you see different partners, different ways of how you're contracting with partners and so on, and you have to find new ways getting into the future markets as fast as possible, of course. That means also rapidity. You have to see how the market is moving to try to keep pace of the changes that are at stake here, and to be part of the market also in the future, of course. Okay.
So this is me. So when I was doing this talk, then I was like, how do I really show you and demonstrate to you how complex my world is? And there's a few people that's actually worked in my company here sat in this thing, so they can know. So they can lots of smiles and good smiles of people that know what this is about. But I just wanted to ram all the words that I've got into my company that they are looking at. I've got 13 siloed functions. Now, bearing in mind, this is a top of the range modern luxury vehicle, very big. They're driven by kings and queens of the world. They're very prestigious cars in the automotive industry. However, I step in to do my role, so I'm head of Agile and transformation inside this company, and the first thing I see is all of that. And I deal with that on a daily basis. And this is how we come to have our conversation and how we come to create this talk, because VUCA is there. It sounds like I swear when I say that word. It is there, and it is causing, from the board down to the person that's on the shop floor, absolute carnage. We have lack of systems thinking. There's no ecosystem there. We are diversifying. We've gone into the electric market, but China is ahead of us. You know, Dubai is also ahead of us. We've got supply chain problems. We don't get microchips on time. I've got some teams running DevOps. Some people Kanban, some people Lean, some people Safe, some people Scrum. It's absolute carnage for me. So it just gives all of these problems. And actually, when I get to speak to board members and executives, I sit them down and I literally just say, we are living in a world of VUCA, and it's causing us all of these problems. And of course, I have to quantify that because that's who I am, and that's my day job. That's why I get paid. But simply, we need to start at the basics. Let's take it back. And that's part of my role and my response. And we go through this talk. Henriette will go to her user case, and then we'll talk to you about what we've kind of done and some examples of why you want to remove that VUCA from your system. Because it just gives everybody so many headaches, so many complexities, thousands of conversations. I think I spend 90% of my time in a meeting, not actually physically doing work. And so if anybody that does know me knows I physically like to be getting something to our customer on time to market with quality. But the world I live in literally causes me a lot of VUCA.
So where I am positioned is I'm an external consultant working since the last 3.5 years now, I think, in automotive especially, going in mostly in roles like an RTE, so release train engineer in the safe context, which is for me a very good vehicle to be in a scaled context where I can do like the organizational development that I like to do. If you will talk with me later on as well, I'm also flight level coach and so on. So this is not that I solemnly do this because I want to do safe. This is because this is giving me the space that I can do the work I would like to do. And what I see here in that specific, like I'm more in the engine room, if you can say so, compared to Shelby, because I'm really down there trying to see what are the problems that we have to solve. And really what I feel, and I try to bring this to you today, is really agility is not a choice anymore. It's not a nice to have. And everything I do every day, it's really challenging where I am, because where I'm at, we are building the car of the future, the future of the car of the future. Anyway, it works both ways. So what I see that we have to really to find solutions, and agility is the path to do that, because there's many things that help us to do it, but not just implementing any framework and any like. We heard it today as well, just using the language. So I even do not use language maybe sometimes, but we have to see how we can solve our problems that we have, our challenges, really grappling for solutions. So yet again, it is becoming a best practice to really do that, to solve the challenges of VUCA. We were just explaining, so the course, of course. And that means I feel a bit like Back to the Future. Yeah, I feel like being today, but like which would be the future from the past, but also being at the same time, I'd say, like walking the same path again, like those Ken Schwabers and Jeff Sutherlands and so on, their ski buddies. And when they come together and find out about the best practices that they see or exchange to each other as something they realize that is helping in such a complex and VUCA world that they were experiencing back then already, right? First time. So I feel like I'm finally getting to really understanding what is agility about. I mean, I thought I did so before. Also, I'm seeing like, I would like to frame it like this, the past where like the Ken Schwabers of this world were working, this was the best practice, were the solutions to the problems they had. And we are just, of course, using them afterwards. So I feel now, looking back to the last years, it is like, we had to be agile coaches, had to be believers, sort of. We were doing elevator pitch for why we need agility now, right? We would missionize about it, sell it to people, and we would call ourselves maybe evangelist, right? And now I feel we are back to a place where this is not about belief anymore. This is a need, a very strong need. And what I see where I work at the moment is I'm getting it as requests. So I feel a bit strange, like I am the one who should go first and pull the other ones into the right direction, right, with a good path. But now I see people come up to me, and people know agile practices. So they come to me and say like, we have a strong problem, please help us solve this problem. Please start using this best practice to help us to solve this. So it feels strange, yeah? People coming up, calling for action, calling for using agile best practices to help them. And this is why I call it like from the past, which would be the best practice as a solution. In the time in between, sometimes it felt more like a believing, and now it's like a request. And what I get there is really, we try to really find, again, we are sort of reinventing fields like that, or relearning agile again, because it's always a very strong question that we have to ask. This is, why do we want to do this? So we know those best practices, we have a problem, but we really have to see how much can we also take. So like the same with all the changes we see, with all the many words you were seeing with Shelby before, we have to prioritize which of the many challenges at the same time we have to tackle first. And the same is what we do, of course, if we prioritize a challenge, we also prioritize a solution and maybe a best practice of the agile methods that we, of course, marry with that, so to speak, and try to find our way out of that. So it really feels like, and again, agile becomes a solution because we are searching for a solution, because we have to ask every time, again, why do we do this? Who is needing it? And is the cost of using these methods, which is a change always, good enough for what we get out of it? So is it okay to do it in a time where we are seeing we have such a VUCA extreme world? You have to be very careful what you do. We have a lot of time. So, and if I show these words now, which you will see from what I experience at the moment, or what I am trying to do, or what I did as, let's say, experiments maybe, not knowing whether it's the right path to go. I cannot know, right? We can only try. You will see that you know these words. It looks like the ever-old story, but I try to bring this to you really like it's not the old story. It feels totally different. The transparency I try to bring is something we need. Why do we need it? Because we do not have enough time. If I have transparency, I can have a discussion of where are really my dependencies and impediments. So what can I really possibly build right now? And what do I have to do to be sure to deliver something with the little time I have, the little capacity that I have, being late already, having to deliver towards some let's say milestones as well, to bring that transparency, to know what's happening, what's going on. So people again requesting from me, please chase us for every single ticket. So last PI, I know exactly for every feature, is it in the next 12 weeks, is it not, does it have an impediment, and so on, because they request from me like, help us, we need to have clarity here. Because we have so many different partners working together, and also in so many tools, we don't see a lot from each other, so we have to make sure that the one tool everyone can see is 100% transparent and trying to give that information, everything. So transparency, I understand finally what it means. Iterative development, imagine the ball going like round, that's why the picture. Also, we started off, and this is, I connected pretty much with a talk also this morning, like, yes, we know we have to do iterative development somehow. Everyone knows this is the right, Pablo were referring to the two paths. But what I can see is, I only realized last week, I always thought I have to discuss with the partners how we can bring in a little bit more of iteration, because what I see is we do not have a view of any elephant. We did not draw the elephant at the beginning to slice it and to then do it like incrementally, iteratively. We never did this. We just started with the slices right away. And what I see is that we are building things in one part together, or bring it together, integrating it far too late. So we're pushing that moment of learning where we see whether it works, and it's very back to the end of our product delivery. So I try to push back and see how can we bring in something. And until last week, I only realized how much it is also a discussion about budgets, right? About contracts and budgets. So I can see I cannot get more of iterative, maybe integration, because the contract is not such. And if I ask back, then it's like, yeah, we could do a different contract, but it would cost much more. So we do not take the costs now, but we will pay them just somewhere else, or someone else, someone else and sometime else. So this is what I try to see, at least now going for testing and so on, to see how can you test earlier as before. And really, again, I really get it now why we have to do it, because we are having problems creating this elephant in the beginning. We have problem because how long can we take to really draw that picture and to understand it, because it's so complex. And commitment. So it's strong wind. So just if you're wondering why this picture, commitment is about really. Before I thought like, okay, if I say I do this PI, this is my commitment and so on. What I see, it's also I don't swear now, every process that I define just to create transparency, this was my thought in the beginning, I realize now it comes to be part of the regularities, of the legal commitments we are creating, and becoming documentation, not any second nice to have transparency, whatever, creating documentation style, but now it comes into real contracts with our partners and that we align on so on. So it's a totally different way of commitment that I'm realizing we're having here. And then new collaboration models. So this is what I see as well, my work change in that way as well, that I have to think of totally different models. So there cannot be a possibly good cut of an art, for example, because we have dependencies to so many places anyway. What I work on to try to improve that is everything which you need to create a collaboration model, from processes that work, processes that are then a legal part of it, the tooling, the communication, and of course, first of all, the understanding of the product as well from both sides, because we have so many different contracts and partners that we work with. So it's quite complex also from that part of the perspective. Yes, and user centricity is about fruit baskets, obviously. So this is also, again, about, it's not this, we do not want to please just someone. As you heard today, users always know what they want. It's about that we have to think differently. So if you look into automotive, we think still in Germany, for example, it's a car. You want to travel with it, you want to go grocery shopping, whatever you want to do with the car. It's a car, yeah? It's a metal thing, it's an engineering thing, so on. But we see already now that in China, for example, it's a private space and it is far more a social media device on wheels. And we have to think it differently, not for the single different things features that someone likes, but for the concept of how this is connected to our different cultures and needs, of course, as well. So we have to start thinking differently, taking this into our development and creation of products, which I see actually too little, and we have to go on doing this more to be still part of the market in the next future. So if agility were carbon, this is the moment it would become a diamond again, or now.
But and there are two user cases. So as you can see, they're both completely opposite end. But we got together and we were talking and we were like, well, how did we kind of how did we deal with this? So these are both our opposite ends and lots of our train of thought. So we addressed it. I strategically address our issues inside my system. I sit down with board members. I sit down with staff. I strategically talk about how VUCA causes them all their problems. We address it. We build agile and flexible operations. So I literally have taken it right into the manufacturing space. So industrial ops, right up then to the board level, and we talk, metrics, data, etc. At that space, and then everything in between. So we look at it from that sense. I enhance the supply chain resilience. I asked my partners to come in now to work. We work with loads of third parties, so I asked those partners to come in. I want them to be part of the decision making. I want them to work the way we work, and if we don't, and they do something different, then how do we meet together? How do we, build our ecosystem and live in one space? But we also diversify them. The market in automotive is changing to the Chinese market, tech, as Henriette said. I have to go, we have to diversify this, especially in my realm. My car is, it's a heritage brand that's been around hundreds and hundreds of years. And so therefore, it's stuck in a bit of its old ways. And so, when you look at thick cars like BYD and things like that, I kind of need to bring in those fresh new suppliers, and I'm being shouted by David. Technology is also needs to play a part. You need to bring in new stuff, as we talked, because we live in a modern world, so it's TikTok, social media, that type of stuff. Focus on our research and development, make sure that we're not doing too many products, but we're just doing the right amount of product for our car, enhance the customer understanding. Again, it's about engagement and bringing them in, have that conversation. Ultimately, they're the people at the end of the shop that gets the car, so bringing them in to have that great engagement. Explore new business models, so not like command and control or any of the old agile practices that people talk about, which we could talk about all day. Leverage digital transformations, because again, we live in that era. And then embrace digital twinning. So for us, we can build our cars in that space before we actually put them to our customer and get really good data from all of that.
Building resilience in the thriving VUCA world means, and again, try to feel this, because the words is hard to bring the difference, it is about the people, of course. We do a lot by working with the people and not the framework. Start, and that's really important, with a minimum setup. So make it, as Shelby was saying, bring it back to simplicity, right? Otherwise, we have complexity around us already. So bring it to a minimum setup to start with. Seek for transparency and be data-driven, yeah? Be data-driven to be able to show what's really going on. You want to know what's happening. You want to deal with it. You want to deal with it early. And you want to be able to have options and choices and not following task force motives for whatever. And relevant communication. Give me some more. Relevant communication around the product, and of course the sustainable feedback loops, not to forget, bringing in the learning into what we do. Then rapid and tangible value focused outcomes. That means really looking for what we can possibly do and create, and then test often short time frame and build collaboration. Give me one moment. This is just a final citation, because there was someone posting a video about the intro, but also there was one word which I found being a good, what's it called? Extro? I don't know. So ending our talk is, it is our responsibility. Why do we talk about it? Because it's our responsibility as agile coaches that are holding all the opportunities to help designing and transitioning the now and here into the future way of living. That's why. Thank you very much.
Thank you.